Missing all my words on the edge of sombrero. The gringo, sing flows, yes, the cockazoid. Kill Agnes with a glance from the pupil of annoyed. A mic stored in underwear drawers of my dresser. Rhymes from True God, yours is child of a lesser. A lowercase G hanging under the bar. My G's above and beyond and shining bright from afar like North Star. Guided me to Gibson, the manger, Dr. Stranger. Like Blase Blah, bringing danger. Infermos of Harmonico sick. Stand tall, surfing ink from Bic. Push the click, now I'm running. Leading down the L-pen shaft. And spin a phonograph to exercise a paragraph. Epitaph from killing off the flesh with 808. A low frequency to give you something to hate. We tie words uptight with lasso. With art from the soul, Pablo Picasso. And paintbrush in my discussion. When we touching down sublime with rap flow. We tie words uptight with lasso. With art from the soul, Pablo Picasso. And paintbrush in my discussion. When we touching, rushing, it's like that.
Hey, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steven Hughes. You'll usually know me from shows such as Steven's All Out Baseball Show and the new editions of NBA Weekly. Today is a pretty big day in college football, especially with the two games that happened last night, with Stanford upsetting Oregon in overtime, and then Baylor blowing out the number one team at the time now, Kansas State, and it's going to change a lot as Notre Dame is projected to be the number one team now in the land. Just as the rankings are going to be released in just about an hour. The show is just a half an hour show about what happened yesterday and what's going to happen in the future, especially Alabama is getting a second chance on making it to a national title. And our first guest today is Robert Dieters. He'll be talking to us about the Stanford-Oregon game that happened just last night. Robert Dieters, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steven, for having me on.
It's great to have you on too, Robert. So pretty much what I want to talk to you about is what happened in the Stanford game. Obviously, the Kansas State game is a blowout, it looked like, but the Stanford Oregon game was so competitive. Like, you didn't know who was going to win until what happened to Oregon with it's just the field goal. Maldonado hits it off the post and pretty much cost the season for Oregon. Tell me about what you saw on the game last night.
Even when I watched that game, the Stanford defense was probably the best thing Stanford had all night going for them. Their defense stopped Oregon, and that overtime maybe was tough. That they knew that Oregon did not have a good kicker, so when he missed it, that was a chance for Stanford, as you said. Maldonado missed that one, and that was probably that just cost that 11-0 streak going to 10-1. And when the Stanford offense did good, and what they did is Hogan did great on the passing game with Ertz, Young, and Terrell, as well as Stephon Taylor getting a lot of rushing yards, as well as he averaged 4.9, and he had 33 carries for 161 yards. And Hogan had, he played better than Mariota in that game, which is a QB for Oregon. Just had a better completion percentage, but the yards weren't the difference between both of these teams, between both these QBs. They both had over 200 yards in the game, and they both threw for a touchdown and an interception.
Robert, tell me about there was a play late in the fourth quarter with Kevin Hogan connecting to Zach Ertz in the back of the end zone. At first, it was called an incompletion because it looked like Zach Ertz did not have full control of the ball while he was getting tackled onto the out of bounds line. Tell me about what you thought about that play, and did you think that the referees made the right call after they made the official review?
That could have blew the game for Stanford. That was one of the worst calls in NCAA. If Stanford would have lost that game, the refs would have been blamed for that game, Steven. When you say I'm going to say this was probably one of the worst calls, and this is outrageous. It was after the play too. That's what really pissed me off about that.
Well, I think that what the referees saw was that there was a lot of just jumble on the ball because it was Zach Ertz. He was really like putting the ball up in the air a lot while trying to keep control of it, including like he was trying to catch the ball at the same time as being tackled. And then I think that the other thing was that the referee probably saw that since he did not have control of the ball, and then when his right shoulder went over the out of bounds line, I think that the referee had the thought that he didn't have control of it. It's an incompletion, and then we saw for review he had control of it, and then he had the right shoulder pad just touch the ground right before the rest of the entire pad just goes from one half of the side to the touchdown to the end zone, and the other half to the out of bounds area. So obviously a break for Stanford that makes it 14-14. The game goes into overtime, and then just tell me more about how Maldonado really cost it for Oregon. He does not. He is not a kicker. He's not a field goal kicker at all means because Oregon doesn't really need a field goal kicker in for most of the season because Oregon will usually score touchdowns instead of just not relying on fourth down for a field goal attempt.
It shouldn't be his fault. I know he missed it, but Oregon needs to get a field goal kicker. It shouldn't be the kick. He's supposed to be the long distance kicker. He's not supposed to be some field goal kicker. You're not supposed to expect to put someone in there and make a field goal. Like he's not supposed to be in that type of situation. In my opinion, Oregon has to find a field goal kicker. I mean, of course they have a great offense, no doubt about that. But when you're in that type of situation, which Oregon probably never thought of, ever being a 14-14 tie in the fourth quarter. Well, I mean in overtime, 14-14 in overtime, and they had to go for the field goal kick because how Stanford's defense did really well against Oregon, and it's just. There's some teams that don't have field goal kickers, but when you're ranked in the BCS, you should have a field goal kicker.
That's a good point. Oregon doesn't, like I said, Oregon doesn't really need their kicker. They only need him for extra point attempts because there's really not an opportunity for him to kick a field goal because Oregon's offense is so explosive and so fast that a defense will easily just give up a touchdown. That obviously did not happen last night. As remember last year, the kicker for Oregon, it wasn't Maldonado, but in a game where Oregon almost lost, the kicker almost cost Oregon the game because of his missed field goals. And it's just a simple 38-yarder or the simple 42-yarder. And I want to go back also to the first attempt that Maldonado had that would have made the game 17-14 in regulation. Easy field goal attempt. It was a 42-yarder, like I stated, and he just missed it. He missed it to the right, and it looked like he had everything. Everything went perfectly right until he kind of shanked it. Do you think that would have won the game for Oregon if he made that field goal in regulation?
When you look at that, I mean, you say he did cost the game either way because they could have won that game if they had the field goal kicker. If they had the field goal kicker, Oregon could have won either, end of regulation or in overtime. So either way, when you look at it, Oregon probably would have taken this game only with field goal kicker. And their offense should maybe got a little bit better, but the Stanford defense they're just phenomenal that game.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that Stanford really was in this game for as long as possible until they got the win in overtime. I thought that it was going to be another blowout that's been happening for Oregon against Stanford for the last 2 years. But obviously, things went the other way this year, or Stanford gets the winning end and ends the dreams of Oregon making it to another national championship. Thank you, Robert, for being on the show and talking to us about that game and that game alone. Any final words?
Before I go, I think when you look at the BCS rankings for Stanford, which are at 13 last night, I think they're going to go to the top 10 at least. I would have to say 8 or 9. So good luck for Stanford, and thanks, Steven, for being on my show. I should have a show soon. I will, I think I'll have it next week, I believe, hopefully Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week.
All right, thank you, Robert, for letting us know, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, talk to you later, Steven.
All right, that was Robert Dieters from the Dietz Sports Talk Show. He's also part of NFL Tonight with myself and Nick Rice, and he is a daily caller for. He's a daily special guest on any of my shows on NBA Weekly, on this show, and he was also a special guest on Steven's All Out Baseball show. One really supportive and well-doing national sports member. So when we come back, I have a question on the chat board. I'll answer it. Why did UCLA beat USC in the Los Angeles battle? That was a great game last night. I'll talk to you guys more about that, and also the shakeup in the BCS, what the title of the show is. And we'll talk about who's going up and who's going down and who's going to be staying right in the middle of the race for the national title that's going to be taking place in Miami, Florida, just in January. When we come back, we'll be talking about that in 30 seconds. And please come back to the BCS Shakeup Show here on Spreaker.com, affiliated with National Sports. My name is Steven Hughes. Checking back in 30 seconds.
È strano se sfiorandomi riemergerai dal buio. Riposa un po', mia cara Belle, il tuo regno sai non brilla più.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Steven Hughes, and we're back here on the BCS Shakeup Show here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon here in very, very cloudy, actually, California, and I should say Northern California here in the Bay Area. And obviously a lot of Stanford fans very happy about the victory that happened last night against Oregon in Eugene. Now, I got a question on the board from Cameron Sadeghi. He's doing a show at 5 o'clock at the top of the hour. Tune into that show. The Cameron Sadeghi show, he brings a lot of analysis and highlights to the show from the NFL, from the NBA, and he probably should be talking about some college football at the end of the show probably. But his question was, why did UCLA beat USC? What was the difference in the game? And obviously the highlight or the headline for this game was that UCLA beat USC to claim the Pac-12 South title, since the Pac-12 is now divided into two divisions. But the problem that USC has now is that Matt Barkley is injured. He got injured, as a blow. That is a big blow. He did play a lot. He won 20 for 38, 301 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. That's still the problem that Matt Barkley has been having the entire season. Just the turnovers have been costly, and I think that's one of the main reasons why USC is really where it's at right now. And Barkley, he has injury. He declined to discuss the injury, citing the program's policy on not disclosing injuries, and answered only 3 questions in an abbreviated news conference before being whisked away to the team bus by a school spokesperson. It is apparent shoulder injury after a sack by UCLA late in the game, and obviously a big blow for USC, as this, especially as probably the biggest game of the year for USC, is next week against the probable new number 1 team in the nation. That'll be Notre Dame, as the BCS rankings will be released in about 45 minutes. You can tune into the BCS show on ESPN. They'll release the rankings at the top of the hour